Okay, it looks like we're winding down this study on whether or not irreducible complexity has been refuted, or what it favors most in the direction both evolutionists and creationists stay on the same side of the fence, that the universe has got innumerable number of complex designs throughout. The evolutionists say, well, we're just given enough time, we have evidence that these things evolve, but they haven't shown any evidence. They still don't admit that they can't be there to observe it happening, nor repeat it happening, nor falsify it. So there's no evidence. This is a philosophical approach, but we look at it scientifically as best we can, and minutiae points to see which the preponderance of evidence points toward. So here we go. Let's go to the website B, bacteria flagellum refuted by evolutionists and then rebutted by creationists. Here the blood clotting system also looked at as well, and Krebs system. And so far we've seen no actual scientific evidence, except they would draw a conclusion that something over here looks similar to something over there, two different species, two different functions. So the similarity means identical, and therefore that disproves what? Nothing. So as we have also seen, this author says on this article, the flagellum unspun, Kenneth R. Miller, Professor Miller, he says, as we have also seen, the flagellum does indeed contain such a machine, a protein secreting apparatus that carries out an important function even in species that lack the flagellum altogether. A scientific idea rises or falls on the weight of the evidence, and the evidence in the case of the bacterial flagellum is abundantly clear. No, it's not. There is no evidence. You have evidence over here for a species for that, and then you say that's the same as the evidence over here for another species for something else. You ever heard of the comedy routine, Who's on First? I'm looking for who's in the left field, or left outfield. And the evidence is that a particular design has a number of variations in it, which performs a number of functions in a number of species. That's rather intelligent, don't you think? Does that refute an intelligent designer? Not even if you can figure out that the species might evolve before the universe is old? Otherwise, there needs to be someone who can do it faster, right? Yeah, if evolution is going to take too long, we've got to have something else. Well, as an icon of anti-evolution, the flagellum has fallen. No, it hasn't. You haven't proved anything. Only if you can provide the stages of evolution in this amazing microscopic engine that seems as complex as an engine and as an automobile. The very existence of the type 3 secretory system shows that the bacteria flagellum is not irreducibly complex. The existence of the type 3 secretory system exists in one species over here. But what about the existence of the locomotive system in the flagellum over there, which is a little more complex? Well, you know, sometimes you have a 150 horsepower engine, and then you have a 300 horsepower engine, and you have an 800 horsepower engine. Oh, okay, those don't exist because what? They're different cars, different species. More than one function of the system in more than one species is not what irreducible complexity is referring to. How did that system evolve in the one species in view, stage by stage, and how did that system evolve in the other species in view is the issue, and in how much time? 2 different points now. You want to bring in a third one? It'd be 3 different points. One doesn't prove out or disprove another. If that time is longer than the universe is old, for example, what happens? Then look for another solution. You have not provided this all-important information, so we don't know. So if you haven't provided this thing, I would say the argument of silence is that we still have to look for an intelligent designer because both sides agree that this is a complex organism. But he goes on to say it also demonstrates more generally that the claim of irreducible complexity is scientifically meaningless. Why? Constructed as it is upon the flimsiest of foundations. You admit it's complex. What do you need it more? The assertion that because science has not yet found selectable functions for the components of a certain structure, it never will. Wow. If you don't find something, you can't describe what you haven't found yet. You don't know what that something is. Oh, wow. That's not science. Who's on first? I am going to stick with what is the best explanation we have so far until something better comes along. So far I say we have a very complex universe in which you have not fully explained every detail for over 150 years, not even found an intermediary life form. It appears so far up to be left up to an intelligent designer over a very short period of time, especially because of the overwhelming evidence of the worldwide flood that would have destroyed the fossil record if there was one and produced its own of all that water and sediment, which it evidently did. Especially since the fossil record is so inconsistent the world over, you can't look at the textbooks because every time you look around in the earth, you find something different from the textbooks. What would do that? Worldwide flood. A recent creation demands an intelligent designer. So this professor says, in the final analysis, as the claims of intelligent design fall by the wayside, which they haven't, not one, its advocates are left with a single remaining tool with which to battle against the rising tide of scientific evidence. There has been none scientific. Can you observe, repeat, falsifiable? No. Then it's philosophical, maybe with some scientific points. But you haven't made your point even in a minutiae area. That tool may be effective in some circles, of course, but the scientific community will be quick to recognize it for what it really is. The classic argument from ignorance. You're arguing from ignorance. You don't know what the steps are in the evolution of something that you say could have been evolved by we don't know the steps. Dressed up in the shiny cloth of biochemistry and information theory. Yes, that's what your theory is. We're both philosophical. What is the evidence point that we can show is somewhat objective and somewhat scientific about certain points? Sometimes the points are totally irrelevant. So far I've seen nothing but irrelevance here. I say you state that creation is wonderfully complex and so far beyond your comprehension to explain it in detail, species by species. How does this rule out an intelligent designer? Doesn't. When three leading advocates of intelligent design were recently given a chance to make their case in an issue of Natural History magazine, they each concluded their articles with a plea for design. Why not? One wrote that we should recognize the design inherent in life in the universe. There is a design. How about complexity? Now, if evolution created it, all well and good, but you haven't shown anything. Another, that design remains a possibility. Yes. And another, that the natural sciences need to leave room for design. Yes, until you can rule it out. With science, yes, it is true. Design does remain a possibility. Thank you. But the type of intelligent design of which they speak, no. Why not? Complexity. What kind of intelligent design can do something and design it intelligently? You say it was designed intelligently, so then it's an intelligent designer. Wow. What? Don't words mean something? Why not? Can you prove there is not an intelligent designer of some sort until you can explain evolution a bit better? As Darwin wrote, there is a grandeur in an evolutionary way of view of life. No, there isn't. It's destruction and death. A grandeur that is there for all to see. Yeah. What you see is, you got blinders on. You like to see destruction going on, natural disasters, the possibility of this world being destroyed by humankind, carbon dioxide, global warming, wars, air pollution. That's wonderful. Regardless of their philosophical views on the meaning and purpose of life. Well, just look at the life itself. You'd like to stop automobiles from killing the most people on the planet every year. Why can't we design something that'll do that? Because mankind refuses to go along with the system. I do not believe even for an instant, this fellow says, that Darwin's vision has weakened or diminished the sense of wonder and awe that one should feel in confronting the magnificence and diversity of the living world. No, I have that too. Except I don't think Darwin's got it well explained. And he actually said stuff like I can't explain. Rather, to a person of faith, it should enhance their sense of the Creator's majesty and wisdom. And it does. I don't know where he got his point idea. Before that, he said intelligent designer, that's cruel and it is terrible whim. Now he's turning around saying it should enhance their sense of the Creator's majesty and wisdom. Wow. Against such a backdrop, the struggles of the intelligent design movement are best understood as clamorous and disappointing double failures, rejected by science because they do not fit the facts. There aren't any facts. Actually, creation does indeed fit the facts, especially since there's not enough time for this universe to have evolved from its beginning via random selection. Especially since the worldwide flood demands a recent universe. Sorry for the phone call. So creation does indeed fit the facts, especially since there's not enough time for the universe to have evolved from its beginning via random selection, especially since the worldwide flood demands a recent universe and has destroyed, if there ever was one, the fossil record and deposited its own. A lot of water can do that. And the age between the fossils in the rock strata is evident. What? There's nothing between the rock files but space and air. And having failed religion because they think too little of God. Wow. Have you read the Bible? What? Explain. Are you writing of a God who lets death and random selection go on for billions of years? Or according to the Bible, a God who created everything out of nothing into a grand and perfect universe, and then allows man to have his way and mess it up, and then provides a Savior to restore it all as it was originally created, allowing all mankind to participate in that salvation by a moment of faith alone in His Son, Jesus Christ alone? Oh, no, I don't think that's less. The God of the Bible is far more than you think. Well, we're done with that until He rebuts me.